Okay, so UFC 294 took place this morning, and Islam Makhachev got a first round head kick KO, or TKO, I should say, over Alexander Volkanovski. It was a crazy performance. It was not at all what I expected to happen, especially not in the first round. I could have seen a head kick KO because Alexander Volkanovski is the shorter guy, but happening in the first round as quick as it did, I just don't think I was really prepared for that. Some other crazy things happened on the card as well. Overall, the card wasn't the best, but I'm going to go over a couple of the big moments of the card and talk about the fights that happened. We're going to start with the main event. Islam Makhachev TKOing Alexander Volkanovski. Now, I picked Islam to win. I expected him to win. It was hard for me to see how Volk could win this fight on short notice, but that being said, Volk did better than I thought he would in the grappling early on. I thought that a Volk on short notice would be much easier to handle in the grappling. But after seeing this rematch, even though he came in on short notice, I guess maybe it's just his body type and obviously his skill. He's a very good fighter, but I'm thinking that particular body type must just give Makhachev trouble in the grappling because Makhachev couldn't get him down. And he did try for a little bit. Excuse me. He did try for a bit. They got in the clinch, and Volk was able to kind of push Islam around a little. Islam pushed him around a little. It was pretty even in those grappling clinch situations, and I think it's just that Volkanovski, that shorter, stockier, strong type of build, it's a very difficult frame to muscle around in the grappling department, and so it gave Islam a lot of trouble. But Islam was finding a lot of knees to the body in the clinch. He went for a knee to the face a couple times, which I kind of thought is what he would try to do. Shorter opponent, take advantage of your height advantage. And then eventually they separated. And in the striking, it was pretty similar to the first fight, I would say. Volk was less aggressive. He said that in this fight, he needed to come out more aggressive because he needed to get a finish early. He didn't want to test his cardio for the 5 rounds. He was less aggressive with this fight. He was less aggressive in this fight for this first round, as long as it lasted, than he was in the first round of their previous fight. And I think even though he wanted to come in aggressive, I think that it was probably difficult for him to get out of his mind how difficult the first fight was, and he did get dropped by Mackhachev in the first fight. He got dropped to a knee, and they hurt each other in that fight, and I think both of them had that on their mind going into this one, like, oh my gosh, this is the toughest opponent I've ever faced. I don't want to get too reckless in here. And Volk didn't look super confident in his ability to make it through the fight. I don't know. He just didn't look that confident as he usually seems to be. The only super confident, Volk moment that I could think of from the fight is when Islam shot for a takedown and Volk went like, no, and stuffed it. He literally said like, no, or no you don't, or something like that. So that was cool. But yeah, it was a great performance by Islam Makhachev, man. His striking is extremely underrated. I don't really know who a lightweight beats him at this point. I know people say that Charles Oliveira has a good chance, but honestly, these guys that, if you get aggressive with him, I don't think you have a good chance because he's a counter striker more than he is an offensive striker. He beat Volk this time by being offensive, but generally the way he strikes is counter striking. So if you get aggressive with him, he has crazy defense. He has like the highest striking defense percentage, like strikes, block, strikes, highest striking defense in UFC history, I believe, at least up until the previous Volk fight, but I think he still has that record, highest striking defense. And so guys getting aggressive on him, it's not going to work. And Oliveira is one of those guys who's just hyper aggressive, and that's what got him dropped in their previous fight. A guy like Justin Gaethje could give him problems on the feet, but he has nothing for him on the ground. Same with like Poirier, he can give him problems on the feet, nothing on the ground. And then Oliveira is very well-rounded, but he's too aggressive, so he gets caught. I just don't know who has the right style to beat him because he's so well-rounded. He's not like Khabib, where Khabib was a great grappler with bad striking, but the bad striking was okay because he was such a good grappler and people were so scared of it. Islam is a great grappler with great striking. He's one of the best strikers in the division, on top of being the best grappler in the division. He's a very, very dangerous man, and I don't see anybody beating him anytime soon. And as for Volkanovski, he says he wants to come back and fight in January. I really don't want him to come back and fight in January. He just got wobbled really bad. He got finished, TKO'd. He wasn't there. He got head kicked and he like wobbled down into the cage, and Islam followed up and he was hitting him with punches to the face, and the lights were on but no one was home. If you looked at his face as he was eating those hammer fists, yeah, lights are on, no one's home. He needs to take some time off. I don't want to see him fight in January. If he comes back and fights in January against Ilya Topuria, who is his next opponent, Topuria hits really hard and he has good boxing. I don't think you should fight Topuria shortly after a TKO loss. I think he should wait a little longer than that. And in the meantime, Topuria can fight Max Holloway, or maybe Topuria can just hold off if the UFC doesn't want Holloway to, finish him off and take another contender spot for the belt. So yeah, that was that fight. It was a great performance by Islam. Tough for Volkanovski. It sucks to see it go like that, especially him taking it on short notice. Hopefully he can build his way back up. Maybe he can fight a lightweight again, but at his age, I think he's 36. It was probably his last go at lightweight. I see him probably defending one or two more fights at featherweight if he's smart and doesn't go back in January. And after that, he's at the age where we're gonna see him decline. He's no one's prime lasts forever, especially in these lighter weight divisions. Dude's getting closer to 40 than he's closer to 40 than he was to 30, and that's not good, especially at a lighter weight class. So hopefully he can win his next fight, though. I like Volk and I want to see him succeed. I don't want to see the downfall, but it is inevitable. It always is. Other fight that happened on the card, Kamaru Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat completely dominated him in the first round, mostly control, not too much like crazy ground and pound. There was some, but it wasn't like the Khamzat smashing that we come to expect from most of his fights. But it was a very dominant first round. A lot of people said 10-8. I don't really see how you could make it a 10-8. I guess if you count just control, then sure. But when the scoring is based on damage, I don't think there was enough damage done for it to count as a 10-8, but I understand people that say that it is. Second round, I thought Usman clearly won. Not a lot happened in that round. They just kind of went pitter-patter shots back and forth. And Usman was landing the better shots. Khamzat gets a takedown at the end of the round, but does nothing with it, and I don't think that made up for Usman's better shots throughout the round. Usman did stumble Khamzat into the cage with a right hand at one point in that round. And then round 3 was where Usman kind of said, all right, I just have to do something. I have to finish this guy or whatever. And he starts trying to pour it on him, and they get into a couple of slugfesty moments. And I thought in all those moments, Usman got the better of it. Usman showed to be the better striker in this fight, and Khamzat showed to just be the better grappler who was way too big. Big, strong. Usman didn't even look that small, but Khamzat is just I feel like he's weirdly strong, and he's a crazy good grappler, and Usman had nothing for him in the grappling, other than survivability. He did a really good job to not get submitted, but I thought he did better in the striking, and I thought the fight should have been a draw. I thought Usman 1, 2, and 3, and everybody says that the first one is a 10-8. I disagree, so I actually think that Usman could have arguably won, but I think a draw was fitting looking at the performance of the both of them. I didn't think Usman lost the third round. I don't really know how I think a couple judges gave Khamzat all 3 rounds, or at least one judge, I think, but I don't see how that happened. Or no, they gave him 29-27, so it was a 10-8, and he won 2 rounds. Again, I just think Usman won the third. It seems like everybody agrees he won the second. I thought he landed better shots in the third. I know Khamzat got to take down that one as well. He had a bit of control time in that round, but he didn't land any meaningful shots with that control time, and I don't think that was more significant than the shots Usman landed on the feet. But it doesn't really matter. Usman's old, Khamzat's young. He'll do better at the top of middleweight than Usman will, so I'm fine with him getting the win. I just think Usman probably deserved a draw. Other fight that happened that was stupid was Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. This is one of the weird fights on the card. There was a couple of weird moments on this card. Weird reffing and a weird doctor. Okay, so There was a lot of fouls on this card too. If you didn't watch it, lots and lots of fouls. A lot of like knees to grounded opponents or supposed knees to grounded opponents that looked like it but actually weren't. Like in the Muhammad Makhachev versus Tim Elliott fight, there was some Tim Elliott was doing this thing where he was lifting. Muhammad Makhachev was doing that thing where he's on his knees and he's trying to like put one hand down on the ground to make sure that he can't get hit, or he's like on his feet but he's bent over putting one hand down so that he can't get kneed, and Tim Elliott was trying to pick him up, like jerk him up and get his hand off the ground and then knee him in the face, and he did that a couple times, and he actually wobbled him at one point, and then the ref stopped it, and then they looked back at the footage and realized it was legal, and then he gets submitted a little while later, so I think they kind of hosed him there, to be honest. But anyways, back to the Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker fight. It was a close competitive fight while it lasted. They were just kind of going back and forth on the feet. There's really nothing to say about it. Eventually, Ankalaev gets a takedown, and he lands a bad knee to the face of a grounded opponent. That one was definitely illegal. Johnny Walker actually took the knee very well. He didn't even seem that hurt. He didn't seem to know exactly where he was afterward. He wasn't acting hurt, but he was maybe being a little strange. The doctor comes in and asks him if he knows where he is, and he says yes. And then they ask him something else, and he doesn't answer. And then the doctor tells the ref that he can't continue, and the ref waves it off. And then Johnny Walker starts stepping forward like he's still gonna fight. And then there was this big scuffle in the cage, and Johnny Walker and Magomed both super annoyed. I was super annoyed. I think that fight should have just been left to keep going. That same doctor was earlier in the fight. Earlier in the card, Victor Henry got kicked in the nuts by Javid Basharat, and it was clear he got kicked in the nuts, and he had immediate reaction, and he's in the hospital now, I believe, for it. And the doctor was telling him that it hit him in the leg, and he's fine. And so that doctor sucks. He shouldn't be allowed to work in the sport anymore. Anyways, that's really all the interesting fights to talk about. I haven't seen the first few. I need to go back and watch some more. But overall, it was kind of a disappointing card. It wasn't as good as it could have been. Like, Trevor Peek was fighting. He won. Trevor Peek's fight wasn't exciting as I thought it would be. Ankalaev, Johnny Walker wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. Volk versus Islam was really cool, and it was exciting, but it was also sort of disappointing. It sucks to see Volk get knocked out. Usman Chimaev wasn't as good as I thought that was going to be either. I thought that would be like a bit either one-sided domination or an all-out war. It ended up being kind of slow until the end. So kind of a lame card, but there were some big fights, and we got some answers and some closure on the Volk-Islam beef. So I'm happy about that. Let me know what you guys thought about the fights in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you didn't, then hit the dislike button. If you could subscribe, that would be cool. I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.